So I'll be quick, because I know we've got great questions from the students coming up. I'm Nate Tinker. I work at Hilcorp Energy Company. I'll share briefly my background, like my fellow panelists. Want to say thanks for the invitation. Charles and Linda and HGS has been really great. And I'm honored to be here because it is difficult to address a room full of some people that are way smarter than you are without looking like a fool, but I will try. 5 minutes, touch on the highlights of my career path so far, but not to talk about myself too much. I tried to extract the value-adding pieces for the students in the audience. Trying to look back and say, what were those things that I learned, or critical takeaways, I would say, that kind of spurred on success, if you will, or helped me get to a new level. And there's not really a right way, I think, if you've seen so far, of navigating a career. If there's anything I've learned so far, it's that. A lot of ways into the industry. Mine's pretty typical. I'm going to touch on that in a second, but hard work will get you a lot of places. Knowledge base, obviously. Effective teams. It's really, really critical, especially in this industry. It is so important. I work in development and production currently, and good Lord, operations, reservoir engineering, land, legal, finance, geology, obviously. It is like a multi-Venn circle, and in the middle of all of those circles, that's where the real value is added. And then connections, obviously we've touched on networks, it's really important. And then luck. I think if you look at the threads that have kind of passed through all of the descriptions of the histories here, luck is important. And it goes unrecognized sometimes. I listen to a podcast called How I Built This. And some of the speakers that get onto that podcast talk about how they started these fabulous companies. I appreciate at the very end those that recognize the element of luck. You know, the person they met at a meet and greet. You know, the recruiter from ExxonMobil who approaches your poster. You know, in my case, I have many of my own examples, of course. Dunning-Kruger, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but this is a fun plot. It's basically a knowledge and experience on the x-axis and confidence on the y. This is how I feel going into anything I learn ever, basically. And it's basically as you start to come into your knowledge, you approach the peak of Mount Stupid, and then you crash subsequently into the valley of despair when you feel like you know absolutely nothing and you're going to never speak to anyone again about what you do. But after which you climb out on a steady sort of slope of enlightenment and get to a plateau of sustainability. I'm still here after 5 years, just to be clear. Undergrad, Trinity University, geoscience major, math and Spanish minors. Started out in the math program, hit linear algebra, differential equations, barely passed, got to number theory and intro to abstract math, and I said that was it, that's enough for me. Switched over to geo because I took one intro to geology class and loved it. Great people, research outdoors, amazing data sets, quantitative and creative combined. Not many other places you can get that. And then the end of the day, outcrop beverages were a perk for sure. That's when I got serious about looking at oil and gas for a career path. I have family who's been in industry. My grandfather was with Shell for a long time, over 3 decades. My dad, Marathon, and has connections there, obviously. Yeah, just each summer in between my undergrad years was a small independent. And I look back and I recognize how absolutely lucky I was to have gotten any chance at a foot in the door there. But also it's an important lesson for me as I'm in my career. I look back and I say it's important to help the next generation come up. Even if they know nothing, even if they're not going to be a heavy value adder at the beginning, I think it's important that ball keeps rolling and that just continual cycle of giving people an opportunity. Yeah, it's just me and Jake Schultz looking at core and me being a complete nerd in the field. Graduate school, UT Austin, Hookham. Luciana and I met in undergrad and stepped perfectly in sync, luck, through the last years of undergrad and through graduate school. 2 different advisors at UT. I was with RCRL, Xavier Jansen, Chris Zom, Charlie Cairns. Great group, outcrop based, but the big takeaways here, I won't bore you with my research. Fractures do indeed get more intense over early lithified mud mounds. the big takeaways here that I think are mission critical if you want to point at oil and gas are working with big data sets and technology, right? Dealing with uncertainty, that's a really big one. Building a coherent story around that and being able to communicate that effectively. Long-term project management and design. And then a host of other things that you do on the side to network and build both your technical and your interpersonal chops. Societies, career events, networking events, etc. Applying for internships, of course. I got an internship opportunity with Hilcorp Energy Company in the summer between my 2 years of master's. That was a 3-month intensive, trial by fire. Got paired up with a reservoir engineer and took a look at a legacy oil and gas field in West Louisiana. That was a lot of fun, added a lot of value. They liked me. They said, "You're hired." I said, "Yes, please, thank you." But I think the takeaway there is I was really fortunate to be on a great team with a great boss who was willing to take a chance on these two youngins' proposals for workovers and perf ads. Turned out the projects worked. That's great, but that's important, is to take seriously those who are working hard to try and connect the dots and add value. I think after graduate school ended is when I started with Hillcorp. Past 5 years I've been with Hillcorp. It's been a whirlwind. Worked, all along the Gulf Coast conventional, from West Louisiana down through East and Central Texas. It's a private company. It's small, but now it's mid-sized. We're over 3,000 head count. It's flat organizationally. We're integrated asset team structure. It's dynamic, entrepreneurial, it's fun, it's conventional production, 90+% of our asset base is conventional reservoirs. Cross-disciplinary learnings, development and production roles, myself, a lot of projects recommended, including 8 conventional wells, the log of which is on, one of which is on the right here. Big highlight of my personal career so far. And I think the reason this was such a highlight, 2 a.m., you're at the desk, mud loggers are on location, they run in the down log, and you've got this technical idea, all of which has been this big workup, and it comes to this moment where you're sitting there, and you're like, is everything they taught me in school actually viable? Because there's a couple $1 million riding on this idea. And it's the first swing at bat. And that's a lot of pressure, and it was intense, and when this came across the screen, we have everything digitally now, which is lovely. That was one of the best feelings I think I've ever had in my life. It was validating, it was wonderful, and it was important because this triple combo confirms that you have over 150,000 barrels in place. And you've got an IP of 1,000 barrels of oil a day, and that's important. That moves our economy, right? I'm not gonna grandstand about that, I'll leave that to my dad. But I think, honestly, at the end of the day, oil and gas is effectively about taking data, moving it through information, connecting it up with insight, and then coming to a place of wisdom. That progression takes time, and it takes experience. And it's an exciting industry to be in, and impactful to our economy, and a wonderful cross-disciplinary endeavor. I think how to keep a job, this is the last thing I'll say to all of the students out there. I just wanted to put a few bullet points down. There are way more than this. Just try to get better every day. Technical and soft skills, listen, learn, integrate, refine. Always ask, why am I in this chair? How am I adding value to this company? Because that's the reason you're there, right? It's to make money, ultimately. Technical is important, but I think Hilcorp has underscored this for me, is that the business aspect is why we do this as well. Got to think stochastically. Probabilities and ranges are important. You got to say yes to challenging projects and growth opportunities. You got to know the critical numbers. Relationships matter a whole lot. It's what you know and who you know. And then great results, again, come from high functioning teamwork. And then you got to give back and get involved. I think that's why we're all here today. And I really appreciate the opportunity, so looking forward to questions. Thank you.